The roar of the Ether Valley Grand Coliseum was a living thing, a tidal wave of sound crashing over the central stage. On the massive crystal screens, a 16-year-old stood, hands raised. Kellen Kai-young, the golden child of the Young Syndicate, the youngest ether specialist in a generation. A brilliant, cobalt blue aura shimmered around him, the raw power of a limitless future, made visible. 10,000 people chanted his name. This was his coronation. Then came the sound. A sickening, glass-like crackle that had no place in a human body. The brilliant blue aura didn't just fade, it shattered. It vanished as if snuffed out by an angry god. The collective gasp of the crowd was even louder than the roar had been. Kai was left standing alone, exposed, his hand still raised to a sky that had just collapsed on him. 3 years later, that sound still echoed in the silence of the Young Syndicate's meeting hall. Kai's father, Gareth Young, stood at the head of a polished obsidian table, his face etched with stress. The Scorpion Guild has blockaded our last profitable ether vein. Gareth's voice was gravelly with fatigue. Our credit with the Merchants' Council is exhausted. They smell blood in the water. Without a strong successor. Our syndicate is dying. Kai, now 19, sat in a shadowed corner. Father, not now, Kai. The words weren't cruel, but the dismissal stung like a familiar slap. Juste, sit. Across the table, Kai's older brother, Marcus, shot him a look of pure venom. Maybe you should have sat 3 years ago, Marcus whispered, his voice carrying in the tense room. We'd still have a reputation. Kai didn't respond. He just stood and walked out, the heavy doors closing behind him with a finality that mirrored the hollowness in his chest. Outside, the city of Ethelgard was a marvel of fused magic and technology, its glowing signs floating on invisible ether currents. But to Kai, it was just a gauntlet of whispers. That's him. The kid who broke the Young Syndicate's trash. He made his way to a secluded, crumbling training ground at the city's edge. She was already there. Lena Zun. Her movements were a dance of impossible grace, her ether a calm, golden light that flowed like water around her practiced staves. She was beauty and power in one breathtaking form. You're late, she said, not breaking her form. I was starting to think you'd given up. On getting my face kicked in by you. Never, Kai replied, a ghost of his old smirk playing on his lips. It's the highlight of my week. They sparred. Kai was clumsy, his ether a faint, sputtering flicker of its former glory. Lena was effortlessly superior, but her attacks were precise, teaching, pushing him to use footwork and leverage where his power had failed. After gently pinning him, she nodded. Your form is better. You're thinking, not just relying on brute force. Brute force, Kai gasped. Would be a nice option to have. His fingers instinctively brushed the simple silver ring on his finger, his mother's only legacy. Lena's expression turned sober. The Scorpion Guild's envoy is here. Their young master, Braden, is with them. They're here too. Renegotiate our alliance. Kai's jaw tightened. They're here to gloat. And to officially cut the dead weight. Back in the Syndicate Hall, Braden, Scorpio held court. Arrogant and lavishly dressed in crimson and black, he looked like a predator that had just found a wounded animal. The proposal is simple, Braden announced, his voice dripping with false sympathy. The Young Syndicate merges with the Scorpion Guild. You handle our low-level ether smithing. We handle the real power, and to seal the deal. His eyes locked onto Kai with malicious glee. We nullify the understood arrangement between myself and Lena. Abroken? Syndicate doesn't get to keep its treasures. The insult was so profound the room fell into a stunned silence. Gareth shot to his feet, his face purple with rage. You go too far, Braden. But Kai was already moving, stepping into the center of the room, his voice cold and clear. You want to nullify an arrangement. Fine, but you don't get to do it here, in my house, like you're taking out the trash. Braden laughed, a harsh, barking sound. And what will you do about it, cripple? Bore me to death with tales of your former glory. With a flick of his wrist, a whip of crimson aether snapped out, aiming to trip Kai and humiliate him. But Kai, using the footwork Lena had drilled into him for 3 years, sidestepped. It was close, but he avoided it. The room held its breath. Kai's eyes were locked on Braden. I challenge you, Braden. A duel of ascension. Right now, the hall erupted. Marcus yelled about Kai's foolishness. Gareth looked horrified. But Braden just grinned, a shark smelling blood. I accept. Let's give these people a show. They moved to the central training circle. Braden's aether flared, a menacing red corona. He was a specialist, a full rank above the mere recruit Kai was now. This isn't a fight, Marcus muttered from the sidelines. It's a public execution, Braden charged, a fist wreathed in fire aimed straight at Kai's head. It was a blow meant to end it instantly. As the fist flew toward him, Kai did the only thing he had left. He poured every last spark of his ether, every ounce of his anger and despair into his mother's ring. A deep, resonant hum filled the air. The flawed gemstone on the ring glowed with a faint, ghostly light. A whisper, ancient and dry, echoed in the deepest part of Kai's mind. Asterisk. Finally, after so long, a spark. Asterisk. Braden's fist connected. Kai was thrown back, skidding across the floor. He was bruised, his arm aching, but he was conscious. He had blocked it. The crowd was silent, stunned. Braden stared, confused. What? You should be unconscious. Kai got to his feet, his eyes fixed on the ring. The light was gone, but he had felt it. He had heard the voice. For 3 years, the ring had felt like a tombstone. Now, he knew, it was a cage. And something was inside. Enraged, Braden flared his aether to its maximum. ENOUGH. PYRBLAST. A massive, roiling fireball formed between his hands, the heat washing over the spectators. It was a killing blow. Help me. Kai screamed, not with his voice, but with his entire will. A beat of silence, then, asterisk pathetic, asterisk the ancient voice replied, laced with arrogant amusement, asterisk very well, boy. Let's show these insects what real fire looks like. Asterisk a violet flame erupted from Kai's palm. It wasn't a large fireball. It was a concentrated lance of pure, annihilating heat. It sliced through Braden's pyroblast like a hot knife through butter, striking him square in the chest. The young master of the Scorpion Guild was thrown backwards, his fine clothes scorched, his body slamming into the far wall. He did not get up. Dead silence. Every eye in the hall was fixed on Kai, on his hand, from which a wisp of impossible, violet smoke curled towards the ceiling. The look on their faces wasn't respect. Et toi, fille? Kai looked at his stunned father, At the terrified form of Braden, at Lena, whose expression was one of awe and deep confusion, without a word, he turned and walked out of the hall. The crowd, for him, no asaigo, svenon, in danger. And in the deepest recesses of his mind, he heard the faint, echoing chuckle of the ghost in the ring. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see what happens next with Kai and the mysterious entity in his ring, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We'll see you in the next episode.